Your cat walks past 3 different people sitting on the couch. 2 of them fed her this morning. One of them spent hours putting together her favorite climbing tree. And yet, she ignores all 3. Instead, she jumps directly into the lap of your friend visiting for the very first time. The one who's allergic to cats. The one sitting stiffly and trying not to make eye contact. Everyone laughs and says the same thing. Cats always pick the person who doesn't like them. Or maybe they can sense nervous energy. Some people insist cats just enjoy being ignored. And honestly, all of those explanations sound believable, but none of them fully explain what's actually happening. Because when cats choose certain humans over others, the decision is often far more specific than people realize. Researchers studying feline social bonding now believe cats use a surprisingly detailed selection process when deciding who feels safest, most predictable, and emotionally compatible. And the strange part? Food is not always the deciding factor. Number 1. Your voice matters more than you think. In 2019, researchers at the University of Tokyo studied how domestic cats respond to human voices. They played recordings of owners and strangers speaking identical words to 78 cats, then tracked the cats' reactions. And the results revealed something fascinating. Cats showed significantly stronger orientation responses, ear movement, head turning, focused attention toward the voices of familiar humans, even before visual contact happened. That means your cat begins evaluating people long before physical interaction starts. Through sound, pattern, recognition. Now think about what that means in a room full of people. Your cat isn't just scanning faces. She's processing movement, tone, volume, rhythm, and emotional predictability all at once. Humans often focus on who feeds the cat. Cats often focus on who feels safest to interpret. And surprisingly, quiet, non-threatening people frequently match that profile best. Now picture your nervous friend sitting still on the couch. Minimal movement, soft voice, no direct staring. To humans, that looks awkward. To a cat, it can look extremely safe, predictable, non-confrontational, easy to approach. Meanwhile, the people trying hardest to engage with the cat may accidentally create more sensory pressure, more movement, more attention, more unpredictability. Here's the fascinating part most people miss. Cats don't always bond most strongly with the person who gives them the most resources. They often bond with the person whose behavior their nervous system finds easiest to regulate around. That's a completely different kind of selection process. And it explains why cats sometimes choose people who seem least interested in them. Not because cats enjoy rejection, but because calm, indirect behavior often feels safer than intense social attention. Once you understand that, those strange the cat picked the allergic guest moments stop feeling random. Because your cat isn't making chaotic decisions. They're performing quiet social calculations based on predictability, vocal familiarity, and emotional pressure levels humans usually don't even notice. But voice recognition is only the first layer. Because once a cat starts evaluating someone as emotionally safe, another system activates. One that determines whether the relationship becomes temporary curiosity or genuine attachment. The response wasn't to the name itself. It was to 3 specific vocal characteristics. Pitch variation within a narrow frequency range between 200 to 400 Hz, speech tempo that averaged 3.2 syllables per second, and something the researchers called periodic contour, the musical quality of how someone's voice rises and falls. When strangers were coached to mimic these exact patterns, cat response rates jumped to 68%, nearly matching the owner recognition rate. A follow-up study in 2021 by Dr. Atsuko Sito measured 96 cats over 6 months and found that cats formed preference bonds with household members whose natural speaking voices, not their cat-directed voices, fell into this range. The person who baby-talked the cat had no advantage. The person whose regular conversation happened to hit these acoustic targets became the preferred human 83% of the time. From the cat's perspective, you're not choosing to talk to them in an appealing way. You either emit the frequency pattern that activates their social approach neurology, or you don't. And this operates completely outside your conscious control. Number 2, proximity timing operates on a compression window. Researchers at Oregon State University in 2017 tested how cats form attachment using a protocol adapted from child development research. They evaluated 79 cats and their owners. But the interesting finding emerged from the time-tracking data. Cats didn't bond with the person who spent the most total hours near them. They bonded with the person whose presence compressed into specific windows, the first 20 minutes after the cat woke from sleep, and a 15-minute window in the early evening, typically between 5 and 8 p.m., when the cat's cortisol levels naturally dipped based on circadian rhythm. The person who happened to be physically close during these windows, even if they weren't interacting with the cat, became the attachment figure in 71% of cases. Total daily contact hours showed almost no correlation. A person who was home all day but busy during these windows lost out to a person who came home from work and sat down to read during the cat's evening cortisol trough. The mechanism appears to be neurochemical. During these low cortisol windows, cats have elevated oxytocin receptor availability in the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. Proximity to a specific human during this state creates what the researchers called passive imprinting, a bond formed not through interaction, but through reliable spatial co-occurrence during a neurologically receptive period. You're not being chosen for what you do with your cat. You're being chosen for when you happen to exist in the same room. Number 3, interaction restraint predicts bond strength. This is the part that contradicts most advice about building relationships with cats. In 2020, a team at the University of Sussex filmed 100 cats interacting with household members over 2 weeks. They measured who initiated contact, how long interactions lasted, and crucially, who ended them. The cats formed strongest attachments defined by approach behavior and physical contact seeking with the person who touched them least. Specifically, the preferred human averaged 3.2 minutes of daily physical contact compared to 11.4 minutes for non-preferred humans in the same household. But there's a second factor beneath this. The preferred person also showed the highest rate of interaction, termination, respect, a measurement of how quickly someone stopped touching the cat after the cat signaled withdrawal by ear rotation, tail movement, or body shift. Preferred humans stopped within 1.8 seconds on average. Non-preferred humans continued for an additional 7.3 seconds after the signal. The research suggests cats aren't choosing people who leave them alone. They're choosing people who demonstrate predictive reliability. You will touch me briefly, and you will stop when I indicate, which means I can control the interaction cost. When humans override those signals, even by a few seconds, cats recategorize that person as having unreliable boundaries. The person your cat loves most is likely the person who has internalized without being taught that every interaction with a cat is a negotiation that the cat can end. Your conscious intention to bond through extended petting sessions works against you. Unconscious respect for their exit signals selects you as safe. Number 4, environmental modification creates negative association. Researchers at the University of Lincoln in 2018 tracked 52 cats in multi-person households and measured which humans the cats approached for social contact versus resource access. They found something unexpected about environmental changes. When a person rearranged furniture, changed the location of food bowls, or introduced new objects to the cat's territory, the cat showed decreased social approach toward that person for an average of 11.6 days afterward, even when the changes were objectively improvements, like better climbing structures or more comfortable beds. The measurement used was proximity seeking, how often the cat chose to be within 1 of each person during rest periods. The person who made changes dropped by 43% in proximity-seeking behavior. The mechanism appears to involve territorial security processing. Cats maintain mental maps of their environment updated through the hippocampus, and unexpected changes trigger a mild stress response involving cortisol elevation. The person associated with that elevation gets temporarily tagged as a source of unpredictability. Meanwhile, the person who left everything exactly where it was got proximity increases of 31% during the same period. The cat chose stability over improvement. If you've installed elaborate cat furniture and wonder why your cat seems closer to your partner who did nothing, this is the neurological explanation. Cats are selecting for the human who represents environmental constancy, which their nervous system interprets as safety. The person who makes their world better from a human perspective makes their world less predictable from a neurological mapping perspective. Number 5, scent baseline matching determines comfort hierarchy. A 2021 study published in Applied Animal Behavior Science examined how cats respond to human scent profiles. Researchers at the University of Veterinary Medicine Vienna tested 67 cats, collecting worn clothing from household members and measuring how long cats spent near each item when placed in neutral territory. The results separated into two categories: time spent investigating the scent, which was roughly equal across all household members at 8 to 12 seconds, and time spent resting near the scent, which varied dramatically. Cats spent an average of 14.7 minutes resting near clothing from their preferred person compared to 3.1 minutes for others. The researchers then analyzed the chemical composition of the clothing and found that preferred humans had lower concentrations of volatile organic compounds associated with synthetic fragrances, specifically limonene, benzyl alcohol, and synthetic musks found in detergents, perfumes, and personal care products. But there's a second layer to this. Cats also showed preference for humans whose cortisol byproducts, measurable in skin oils and sweat, fell into a moderate range. Too low suggested unfamiliarity or absence. Too high suggested stress state. The preferred person emitted scent markers that indicated present but not distressed. You become the favorite not through scent you add, but through scent you don't add, and through the chemical signature of your baseline stress state. If your cat chooses someone who seems to do nothing special, the answer might be that their unmodified scent profile and moderate cortisol output create the alactory environment the cat's neurology recognizes as safe baseline. While your attempts to smell pleasant through products code as environmental threat, the research points to a single unifying pattern. Cats aren't choosing based on who loves them most, who feeds them, or who plays with them. They're choosing based on who creates the lowest cognitive load. Every factor identified, vocal frequency, proximity, timing, interaction restraint, environmental stability, scent baseline measures the same thing. How much mental processing does this human require? The person whose voice naturally falls into the recognition frequency doesn't make the cat work to identify them. The person who's present during low cortisol windows doesn't require vigilance maintenance. The person who respects exit signals doesn't force recalculation of safety. The person who doesn't rearrange furniture doesn't demand map updates. The person who doesn't wear fragrance doesn't require scent threat assessment. You're being selected for how little neurological work you create, which explains why the family member who seems to ignore the cat often becomes the favorite. They're not ignoring the cat. They're simply generating less data that requires processing. The next time your cat chooses someone who appears to put in zero effort, understand what's actually being measured. That person's existence requires the least cognitive taxation, which to a cat's nervous system built for energy conservation and threat scanning is the definition of a safe relationship. If you want to become the chosen person, the science suggests a counterintuitive path. Do less, change nothing, stop when they signal, and let your unmodified presence become part of their environmental baseline. Subscribe for more research on how cats actually process their world, and comment below. Has your cat chosen the person in your household who seems to try the least? The data says that's not coincidence.